Hey everybody, Professor Smith here. This video I want to talk about something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. Some of you may have guessed what that is if you're looking at the screen, and that is the College of Staten Island Library. If we were together in person on campus, one of our class sessions, if not more, would have been spent going to the library, looking around, figuring out how stuff works, even taking a class together in the library about research. But unfortunately, we cannot do that. So I did want to take some time to talk about how the online version of the library works, mainly because it's important for you in your studies here at the College of Staten Island, but probably even more so for the project that you're doing. So before we dive into the CSI of the library, there is something else that we need to discuss first, and I'm going to make this attachment available to you. Scholarly versus non-scholarly, comparing the two types of publications. If you remember, if you watched the video on Project 2, or if you read the prompt, you need two scholarly or academic articles. Those two terms go hand in hand, interchangeable, synonymous. You need two scholarly articles and you need two non-scholarly articles. I would probably recommend a few more, but at minimum you will need those four, 2 and 2. Now, when I say that you need those two, I need to see more than a single quote scattered amongst 9-10 pages. I'm going to need maybe 2 or 3 or a few discussions or a few bits of information over the course of a few paragraphs. So please, when I say utilizing sources, when I say using and finding sources, I mean actually using them, not writing your paper with your own ideas and your own perspectives, and then at the end being like, oh no, I needed a site. And then going back and just copy and pasting 1 or 2 in where you feel like they go. Okay, so what is scholarly? What is non-scholarly? So let's go over this little piece together, and I think it'll make it clear. A scholarly source is academic or peer-reviewed, and it's typically in a academic journal. So when we get on to the CSI library, it'll be really clear what some of these are and how to find them, but in essence, what this means is that it's a publication like the New York Times or like any magazine you've read, except the difference is the main goal is about truth and facts and statistics. So the board of directors or all the editing staff or all the people on the review staff are all professionals, experts, researchers, teachers, within a very specific field. So like your journal might be on Cold War studies, or your journal might be on international medicine. So like the journals are very specific, and they are run by and managed by the best of the best in the industry, the gatekeepers of truth and knowledge. The journals aren't really meant to make a profit, although you can buy them, you can subscribe, but it's really meant to gather and document really important research that is being done in very unique and interesting and specific fields. Now, the non-scholarly source includes a magazine or a newspaper, so like the New York Times, for instance. Although there's some facts and there's statistics, it is written by a reporter who goes to an editor who has the interest of selling newspapers as well as presenting truth. So there's not nearly as much in-depth research over a long period of time. So a newspaper or a magazine you can find good information in, but it's not considered scholarly. It's not considered an academic source. So when you are doing your research, you can use the New York Times. You can use the Washington Post. Those count as your non-scholarly articles. For your scholarly articles, we need to do a little bit more. We need to dig a little bit deeper to find something of more substance. Scholarly articles are written by scholars and researchers from other academics and experts. Whereas for non-scholarly articles, they are usually written by journalists or for a general audience. So again, when I pick up the International Medicine Journal, it's typically an expert or somebody researching in the field or somebody looking to do some research in the field. It's meant for a very high level reader, whereas a newspaper or a magazine can be meant for high level readers, but it's also meant for, your everyday Joe and Jane Schmo who are just looking to get a little bit of information. So it's about it's about who's writing them, and it's about who it is being written for that helps to distinguish between the two. Scholarly articles are typically in-depth publication using expert language and vocabulary, whereas non-scholarly are typically written in more straightforward, plain English and prose, almost like conversational English. Whereas, again, the academic, the scholarly ones are written in this sort of highbrow level English that is very matter of fact, to the point, and about presenting facts as easy as possible. For academic writing, for what you guys and gals are doing, you can try and consider yourself in this realm. You are more in the world of scholarly article writing, or that's what we're at least going for. So this is why we're trying to have that expert level of language and vocabulary. Scholarly academic articles includes a list of references and works cited, just like your paper should. Includes charts, graphs, and diagrams. In non-scholarly articles in newspapers and magazines, on a lot of websites and blogs, you won't find a list of sources. They might make these claims, but they're just assuming that that they've read some stuff to back it up. So a scholarly article has references. It tells you where all the information came from, whereas a non-scholarly article just tells you some facts and then you can take it or leave it. It's hard for you to dig much deeper because it's not giving you this bit of information. So again, for paper number 2, you need both these things, 2 scholarly and 2 non-scholarly. So how do we find scholarly articles? There are a few ways to go about doing this. One of the best ways that I would recommend is using the College of Staten Island Library. How do you get there? I usually just type into a Google search bar, College of Staten Island Library, although you can get there through the CSI homepage as well. So, what are we going to be looking for here? There's a lot of stuff to go over. I'm probably going to go over a bit more as in time, but for the sake of making a video that is not 14 hours long, we're going to go with journals. So once we get to this home page, if we click journals, boom, my recommendation would be to not do this because we don't know what title we're looking for. If we know what subject we're looking for, we can go here as well. But my recommendation would be browse all periodicals by title. There's 2 in particular that I find to be interesting, that I really like, that I would recommend that you use. There we go, sorry. They changed the website a little bit. So if we go search more, show more options over here, we can search by name. So and we're looking for EBSCO host. We scroll. It should be here somewhere. Wow, they have a lot more than I remember. Okay, everybody. Sorry, I did make a mistake. I'm going to try and correct this by cutting it out if I can. So, let's remember 9:55. 10. All right. Okay, so what I meant to say was instead of journals, we click databases. That's what we were looking for, databases. So the two that I recommend, one is right here, Academic Search Complete. The other one that I recommend is under E, and it's titled EBSCO Host Database All, not ebook collection. EBSCO Host Database All. So when you get in, you can access all the information that you could on campus at home as long as you know your SLAS information. You would enter it in up here for your student information. For me, I enter it in down here, but once I click submit and my information goes through, it allows me to come into the database. So when you're in this database, my recommendation would be to click select all. So what it is if you want to be more specific, because if you notice, if you do click select all, the search results may be slow because it's looking for more stuff. So if you start to look through what the information here, you could start to try and click on the ones that make sense for what you're doing. Like for instance, this database here is a collection of articles from 1691 to 1820. So I'm not doing my work on this. We're doing modern work on COVID and pandemics and things in 2000 and beyond. So I don't need this. So I don't need to click all of these. But for the sake of getting through it a little bit quicker, you can click all of them. So here it's going to take you into a search. This search is very similar to Google. You're going to type something in, you're going to click search, and it's going to give you some results. If you can remember Journal 1 and Journal 2 for a second, and why I talked about narrowing our ideas down, is because if you type into this system COVID-19, like you would with Google, you're probably going to get quite a bit of results. Now, if we could see here, 384,533 results. Are you going to search all of those? Are you going to look at all of them? How much time do you actually have on your hand? So, if we only know that we're doing a paper on COVID, we get to this. If we only know that we're doing a paper on COVID and the economy, I wonder how much it's going to narrow our search down. Quite a bit. So once we start to get an idea of what it is that we are looking for, we can narrow our searches down quite a bit. The things that we're going to be looking for on this website, and if you know that you want an academic search site, you know from looking at this little note here in the corner, academic journal. This way you know that it's written by an academic. If you click in, you can actually find that information out. Right, we talked about journals, the American Journal of Bioethics, the authors, all authors out of universities doing research. And when you click in, you would find their works cited that has all the information that they did. So when you're searching here and you want to keep your results to things that you can access and things that you need, my recommendation would be coming over to this little section over here, clicking full text, and clicking, oh, where'd that go? So let's just skip back up again. Sorry about that. back to the left side of the screen. It's even on here as well, but we are looking for full text. We are looking for scholarly peer-reviewed journals. By clicking this, it's going to make sure that only results come back that are scholarly peer-reviewed. In fact, if you notice here, I'm going to unclick it for a second. Updating. And as we scroll through, you start to see some videos, you see some periodicals, which are newspapers or magazines. So you can use these as your non-scholarly articles, but they wouldn't count for your scholarly. Only this one, or this one, or this one would actually count as your scholarly article. So part of research, I will get to this in a second, but this is how this website pretty much works. We type in as much as we can here. If we need more, we can click on and add as many. We can reduce them as much as we need. My recommendation would be to have at least 2 or 3 of these filled out, because if you just have the one, chances are it's going to give you a great deal of results. So this is one option. Another option that you have for yourself would be Google Scholar. Excuse me. Google Scholar is the Google website. And when you search on it, it's only going to search articles that are scholarly, as you can gather from here. So it'll look for books and it'll look for articles. So if I type in COVID-19 and economy, I'm going to get some results. Everything that you're going to find is scholarly, whether it's a book, whether it's an article. The only problem with Google Scholar is sometimes you don't have access to the articles. You will pretty much know in advance if you see PDF or HTML or some sort of link here. So if you're not finding as much as you'd like here, or you'd prefer to use Google instead, you can go this route. So like if we click into this one, for instance, we should be able to, it's telling us who it's written by, it's telling us what the title is, but we should be able to find some sort of publication information. If we can't, that is a problem. So if we can't find it on here, we should be able to find it here, right? So, boom. This is the article, this is the author. If we click in, we should be able to get the information that we need, right? The author is from the University of Navarro Business School. It's published by SRN. I'm not sure what that stands for, but I do know that Elsevier is a very popular scholarly database. Not a journal, it's a database that has all these other journals, so you can find a lot of information on there. So, option 2. Option 1, CSI Library. Option 2, Google Scholar. Option 3 would be to use a search engine and try and use language phrases that is going to help you get what you need. So you could even go to Google, and not even go to Google Scholar, Google, and type in COVID-19 economy, and you should spell economy correctly, Jonathan, right? Economy, and .pdf sometimes works. So sometimes PDF works because it's a downloadable document that might be coming from a university. You could also type in .edu, because edu is an educational university, so if it's something you can download from an educational university, it's typically something that will work for you, right? It's a little long, this one, 43 pages, but it's written by these 2 authors, and it's out of, where did it say it was? Brookings, the Brookings Institute. So You can use Google as well. Sometimes it's a little bit harder if you're going to use Google straight. Look at that other document to make sure that the article meets the qualifications that I'm looking for, that you need to meet for your scholarly article. Again, you need to find 2 of these. If you haven't determined what your research question is going to be, it's going to be really hard for you to find this information out. You need that research question, because when we look at these databases and you have to type stuff in, you can't just type in COVID. You can't even sometimes just type in COVID in education because you get too much. Sometimes you'll get lucky, but sometimes it'll be too much. So you really need to be able to know what it is that you're looking for. So if you haven't done Journal 1, 2, and 3, please make sure you do so. The information that I'm going over now and the other video that I'm going to have tomorrow about more research tips, those are going to be important for us in Journal 4 as we begin to dive into the actual research that we're going to be doing for this paper. So, again, just as a recap, how do we find scholarly articles? First, we come up with a research question. Second, we go to either the CSI library database, find EBSCO host or Academic Search Complete. We will go to Google Scholar, or we go to another search engine specifically looking for academic articles. Are there other ways? Probably, but I would recommend those 3. If you have a 4th way and you'd be interested in sharing it with me in the class, please send me an email and I will tell the class. I'll make another video talking about it. Until then, please start your research, because it might seem like we have a lot of time left in which to have this paper submitted, about a month, but I promise you that time goes quickly, and the amount of work necessary in which to do this project is quite a lot, so let's get to it. Alright, thank you everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow.